Alright, everyone, for my next review, I want to talk about the 2010 film Altitude. I'm not going to talk about any of the actors or director of this film because I didn't recognize anybody. I've never seen anybody in anything since, but surprisingly, I like this film. When I looked this film up, found it on eBay randomly. The cover looked cool. I read the description. It looked, it sounded like the kind of movie that I usually end up liking. So I didn't expect much. I figured it would be a low budget film. Didn't recognize any of the actors or anything, so I figured it would be, a grab bag essentially. And I would probably either end up really liking it or really hating it. Bought it, watched it, really liked it. So I'm not going to talk too long about this film, but yeah, if you haven't seen it, I would recommend checking it out. I think it's worth a couple bucks. And all right, so this review will contain spoilers. So this film starts out, and very small cast. You only have like 5 people. Well, a little bit more at the end, but really, only have 5 people. The actors, they're good enough. They're not great, but they're good enough. Some cliche characters. You have the main character who just got her pilot's license. You have her boyfriend who's kind of this geeky, pretty boy type, just thrown in. Probably the worst actor out of the bunch. You got this jock character, your typical asshole jock, his girlfriend who's ditzy, and then this random guy thrown in, playing on his guitar, who you almost know right away is going to die first, right? Because he just doesn't fit in at all. And neither does her boyfriend, but you just know they're going to drag them along. So in that way, the way it played out in that regard was predictable. But so they're going somewhere. I don't even remember where they were going, but they're all renting this plane, and she just got her pilot's license, and they're going to fly to some get-together somewhere, all 5 of them. And her boyfriend shows up. Nobody's ever met him, so he's randomly just thrown in. The jock guy's drinking beer. His girlfriend, she has a camera. She's recording. The other guy's just strumming away on his guitar. And then they take off. At first, everything's all happy-go-lucky. And in the beginning, they show you a bolt, right? Like on the plane. So you can already know that something's going to happen with this bolt that's going to cause a problem. So as they're flying, she lets her boyfriend take the flight controls for a few seconds. And everybody else on the plane's like, whoa, don't, what the hell are you doing? So really a meaningless part, but then later on in the film, they're approaching some weather. So she's like, I'm going to try to pull up and fly above the clouds because I'm not authorized to fly through weather. I'm not, I don't have that classification on my pilot's license or whatever. So she goes to lift up, and the bolt that came loose gets stuck in the flight mechanism. So they keep going up. So the only way for her to stop the plane from, climbing is for her to reduce power. Then people start turning on her boyfriend, like blaming him, like when she let him fly the plane for a few minutes. They're like, you did something, you broke it. What the hell did you do? The jock guy, mainly. He's really flipping out. And so they end up stopping. They're like leveling out. They look at the flight controls are starting to break. Like they're like, wait, we're way too high, Like the flight controls are messing up. And this movie's hard to describe. It's one of them films you really got to see it. It's very hard to describe because this movie's kind of all over the place. You got flashbacks of stuff that happened in the past. You got this going on. You got the bolt coming loose. You got the different characters in this small confined space kind of all losing it. And so it's a movie that you do kind of got to follow closely, I would say, if you're going to enjoy it. And this is the type of movie also to where I could see somebody start it and turn it off after 10 minutes and be like, wow, that was terrible. I'm not even going to get through this. This is just pathetic. But for some reason, I stuck through the first 15, 20, and I did really get into the movie, really enjoyed it. So after they level off, the jock guy, they end up telling you that her boyfriend, the girl in the front's boyfriend, likes comic books, and he has this special comic book with them. And so the jock guy takes the comic book and rips a page off and crumbles it up and throws it in the back of the plane. This turns out to be a big scene. I'll talk about it a little bit later. So the only way for them to be able to descend is for somebody to have to go outside the plane and manually knock loose the flight mechanism. there's a scene also that this scene made no sense, and I will fully admit to anybody who's seen this film and didn't like this scene was retarded, where all of a sudden the girl who's the pilot's like, oh, maybe we're too heavy. How much does everybody weigh? So they're all like, 150, 175, 120, all the way. And then they're like, how much luggage do you think we have? And, they figure it all up to be about 1,800 pounds. They're like, maybe we should start throwing stuff out of the plane. And the plane, how would that even make any sense at all? That was how the flight mechanism broke. You took off 1,800 pounds for this kind of plane, even though, granted, it's a smaller Cessna still. It's just ridiculous scene. So they're throwing stuff out, and the jock guy sees the squid octopus-like monster that was on the cover of the film in the background while he's throwing stuff out. So I guess this was just an opportunity for the film to introduce the monster, but still, they could have did a little bit better job. I will admit, I was like, really, when that scene came on, I was like, oh my goodness, this is pretty bad. But I got through that scene. Then the one guy who was strumming on the guitar, they end up saying that he was like a climber, a rock climber or something. So he's like, I have a climbing experience. I'm going to go out and try to dislodge the flight mechanism. So they tie him to a rope, and he ends up going outside the plane in a pretty ridiculous little action sequence where he's flying behind the plane on a rope, and he ends up jumping on the mechanism and knocking it loose. And as they're trying to pull him back in, the squid monster grabs him, pulls him out. The jock guy was also tied to the rope for security. So the jock guy ends up cutting the rope loose, and they're gone. The jock guy comes back in, and he's like, man, I seen something. And, he said something briefly the first time, but they just played it off because he's drinking and whatever. And so even though he says he's seen something, they're still kind of like, oh, no, you didn't, they're just still not really believing what he's saying. So everybody, the girl's boyfriend, he ends up freaking out, and he's unconscious during this, and he wakes up, and he's like, hey, where did this other guy go? And they're like, oh, he's dead, and then they're just more arguing, more fighting, more bickering. They're kind of all losing their minds in one way or another. So after the flight mechanism was fixed, they keep descending, but they never see the ground. So they're like, what's going on? Is it just the clouds? Is it the weather? We should have been at ground level by now. What's going on? So you can kind of tell this movie's taken kind of a turn into something Bermuda Triangle-ish, paranormal-ish. You can tell, what's going on. It's not just the monster. It's that they're somewhere else. They're in, a parallel universe or something. It ends up, they're flying. The octopus monster comes in, grabs the jock guy's girlfriend, rips her out. As soon as this happens, the jock guy, for some reason, just flips out and goes crazy on the pilot girl's boyfriend. For some reason, she's blaming him, and she tries to throw him out he tries to throw the pilot girl's boyfriend out of the plane. He opens the hatch, and he's trying to push him out. She comes up, bashes him on the head, saves her boyfriend, and then this guy ends up getting sucked out. And then they end up losing, she's holding his hands, and he ends up falling off into the sky. So it's just these two, and at this point, her boyfriend goes and picks up that piece of the comic the jock guy ripped off earlier, and realizes that everything going on in the comic is actually happening to them in real life. So he realizes that it's his mind that's causing the monster, that's causing everything to happen. So she basically challenges him to face his fears, and there's kind of a lame scene where she gives him a kiss and he faces his fears, and then the monster goes away. But then afterwards, he's like, what, you didn't mean the kiss? And she's like, kind of like, no, I'm just kind of trying to save my own ass here. And then so the monster comes back, and throughout the whole film, there's a backstory of this girl's parents died in a plane crash, and you find out later on that this boy's parents also died in the same plane crash, and he was on the plane, and so apparently he created. Okay, so here's I'm going to try to explain this the best I can. So a ghost plane caused a plane crash that killed this girl's parents and this boy's parents when they were kids. As you go through, you end up finding out that the plane that they're flying now was the ghost plane that took the plane down when they were kids and killed their parents. So, how did I feel about this ending? It was definitely unpredictable, and I'll give it that. It was original. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this before in a film. There's some films that I don't know why. It reminded me maybe a little bit of. I don't know. I almost want to say the Langoliers, but then maybe that's a bad analogy, bad similar film, because even though they both happened on a plane, freaky stuff was happening. You really never knew what was going on. But somehow they're in this parallel dream universe that this guy's created in his nightmares, and I don't know. I mean, I thought the ending was decent. It was interesting. It definitely kept me into the film. The pacing was good. After the first, I'd say 15 minutes, the pacing was good, consistent. It was just, it was a good little original film. Nothing special, but definitely seen much worse. If I had to rate this film, I would go 2.5 out of 5. I think that's a good rating for it. I don't want to overrate it. I don't want to underrate it. It was just a good little time waster. If you're into stuff like, parallel universe type creature feature, just more of a psychological horror when it ends up summing it up, but a decent film, I think 2.5 is a good rating for this. So that's my review for Altitude from 2010. If you haven't seen it, you're looking for something cheap and interesting, original, check it out. Thanks for watching.